Hey everyone, and welcome back to What Did I Miss? Where today I'm looking at the 10 most anticipated science fiction films set to be released in 2021, according to IMDB.com. For those of you who are not aware of the site, IMDB, or the Internet Movie Database, is one of the longest standing and most visited sites online that releases news on all things related to movies, and their popularity system is based on how many page views each movie has been getting. They are also who classify these movies as sci-fi, so if you think any do not belong on this list, let me know in the comments and also let me know which movies you are psyched for. Plus, before I get to number one on their list, I will give you my list and go into one of the movies listed there that you may not know about that I am really excited for. 2020 sucked for a lot of reasons, but one not horrible thing to come out of it is that there is a ton of movies coming out this year. While the state of theaters are uncertain to say the least, companies like HBO are also releasing movies on their streaming services, and I think that if theaters do not open on time, that other studios such as Disney will continue to fall in line and do the same with their movies. Especially when you consider that most of these movies have been complete for a year, if not longer, and any more delays risk more lost revenue. These 10 films have still captured fans' imaginations enough that they are very eager to see them, hopefully in person, which could make for a huge year at the box office that would rejuvenate the industry. I know that going back to the movies is one of the things I am looking forward to most, and I'm sure if you're watching this video you feel the same. So in this new year, let's count down the 10 most anticipated science fiction films of 2021. Godzilla vs. Kong. We start this list with a movie that is high up on my list of movies I can't wait to see as well, as what says let's go to the movies more than watching two huge monsters go at it on the big screen. Godzilla vs. Kong is really an Avengers-style team-up movie for the legendary film studio Monsterverse, as it is the fourth film in the series and has been set up for years following the release of two films with Godzilla and one with Kong. Some human characters will be returning for this film as well, such as the father and daughter team played by Kyle Chandler and Miley Brown from the last Godzilla film. But the human element has never been the strong part of these movies, and rumor has it that the producers of the film are taking an approach more akin to the movie Pacific Rim in that there are bigger, badder, and longer monster fights. In fact, the bout between Godzilla and Kong is reported to take upwards of 5 minutes of continuous footage that will not cut away from their battle. But these two titans will have at least one other big bad to deal with, as the cybernetic version of Godzilla, known as Mechagodzilla, will be making an appearance as humanity's answer to fighting these creatures. Those who saw the last Godzilla movie and stuck around until the end credits know that one of Ghidorah's heads was saved by the film series' real villains, a company named Monarch, and they will use that along with the skeleton of another fallen titan to construct the mechanical beast. I absolutely loved these monsters while growing up and watched all the old movies on our local access channel 50 every Sunday, and even had all the toys and the video games. So I am all in for this movie, as I think it will be a lot more fun than the prior movies in the series and will be more of a rampaging monster movie than anything else. Boss Level. Next on the list is a sort of under-the-radar movie that has been finished since 2018 and been waiting for a proper release since its original distributor dropped the film last year. Boss Level is a film with an intriguing plot and was directed by Joe Carnahan, who also directed such films as Smokin' Aces, The A-Team, and Narc. It stars Frank Grillo, who has really made a name for himself in action films such as the Purge series, The Grey, Zero Dark 30, and the Captain America movies as Brock Rummelow, better known as the villain Crossbone. The premise sounds a lot like a video game, as the character played by Grillo is an ex-Special Forces officer who has been trapped in a program that requires him to relive the same day's events until his eventual death. His goal is to figure out what is going on and finally make it to the final boss level so that he can leave the time loop, and with each restart, he learns more about the world he is in. The movie also stars Mel Gibson as the villain and Naomi Watts as Grillo's ex-wife, who he believes is dead and because of this allows himself to be killed repeatedly for most of the beginning of the movie. There's also a pretty extensive cast that includes Star Trek Discovery's Michelle Yeoh, Mad TV's Ken Yeon and Will Sasso, Rob Gronkowski, and retired MMA fighters Rashad Evans and Quentin Jackson, the latter of which starred as Mr. T in Carnahan's A-Team movie. The movie is supposed to be crazy and has been described as being a cross between the movies Groundhog Day and Kill Bill, as each day Grillo's character starts with over-the-top assassins trying to kill him from the moment it begins. The trailer makes it look very much like a video game, and anyone who has played games like Grand Theft Auto will feel very comfortable in this bizarre world. I love the crazy and violent action sequences in Smokin' Aces, and this movie is said to bring a lot of that to the table as well, so I'm looking forward to watching it. Another interesting fact about the movie is that it will be released on Hulu in early 2021, so this is another movie that you will not have to leave your couch to watch. The Eternals. Set to be the 26th film released in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Eternals are an ancient race of superpowered individuals that Marvel hopes to be introducing to a new audience in the fall of 2021. Although Marvel has been a box office powerhouse since its inception, 2021 could be less automatic as the studio begins to work in new characters that are not as well known as the Avengers or X-Men. The Eternals is reported to be about how this race is affected by the events of Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, as they have walked among us for thousands of years and throughout history have helped guide certain people or events toward a better evolution solution for humanity. Their enemies are a race of beings known as the Deviants, and their monstrous shape-shifting leader, Crow, is set to make an appearance thanks to some leaked toy details, although we do not know yet who will be playing him in human form. The known cast of the Eternals is top-notch, as it includes Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, Richard Madden, Kit Harington, and entertaining comedian Kumail Nanjiani, whose character is said to be a Bollywood star. Each Eternal has some sort of energy-based powers derived from cosmic energy, with Richard Madden's Icarus being the most powerful of the group. The movie is set to follow the group over thousands of years and many different time periods, including the present, and it will be interesting to see how they fit in with the rest of the established universe. Given that their powers and storylines tend to have them ending up in space, I wouldn't be surprised if they meet up with heroes like the Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, and Captain Marvel in the near future. At first, I didn't know what to make of this movie, as I have not read any of the comics, but details that have been released make the movie sound pretty epic, and the cast is well-rounded enough to keep me engaged while I decide if I like the story or not. I would like to see a trailer though, and hopefully by the time The Black Widow is released, we get our first real look at the movie. Resident Evil. 2021 will see a reboot of a popular franchise that was loosely based around a video game, as the new Resident Evil movie promises to be more faithful to the source material, which should make for a much more frightening experience. I for one liked the first set of 7 movies for the most part, but agree that the only thing that they had in common with the video game series was zombies, and the use of certain characters who for the most part were not like their counterparts in the video games. The twist of this movie is that it will be extremely faithful to the game series, and in fact begin in 1998 in Raccoon City. The movie will show the viral outbreak and how a group of survivors and military specialists investigate Spencer Mansion on the outskirts of the city. Anyone who has played the game series since it began in 1996 will get all kinds of good feelings from that description, as the games really are at their best when they scare the crap out of you, and the action is a nice filler in between. There are not a lot of big names in the movie either, as the biggest is probably Neil McDonough, who has been in many things such as the CW series Arrow, and who I could have sworn was already in this first set of movies, but I guess I'm confusing him with someone else. The parts of Claire and Chris Redfield will be played by Kaya Scalderio from the Maze Runner series, and Robbie Amell, who I know from another CW series, The Flash, as Firestorm. The Umbrella Academy's Tom Hopper will also be starring as the film's main villain, Albert Wesker, and Donald Logu, who had recently played parts in Sons of Anarchy and Gotham, will be playing another villain named Brian Iron. I'm psyched for this one, as I think it could really be scary, and I think the proposed tone is different enough that it will stand out from the already popular established film series. Another reboot based on a popular video game franchise, Mortal Kombat will be entering Round 2 as a film series in 2021. The story is still the same as the game and the original movie from 1995, as once a generation, the finest warriors must do battle to decide the fate of all the realm. While the story and characters may be similar to the first film, where this movie promises to diverge and be more like its source material is that this movie is set to feature the gruesome fatalities that have made the game series so unique, as well as more visceral fight scenes that take place all around the world. Another reason to get excited is that the story of the characters Sub-Zero and Scorpion is said to be one of the driving forces of the narrative, that will also feature beloved characters like Liu Kang, Raiden, Kano, Sonya Blade, Shang Tsung, and more. The cast does not boast any big names, but one actor who I am familiar with is Hiroki Sanada, who I remember from The Last Samurai, but is an actor with many accolades to his name, and he is taking on the role of Scorpion, which should be an impressive depiction of a popular character given the actor's ability. Another name that popped out to me was Mekhi Brooks, who most will recognize from True Blood or Supergirl, but that will be taking on the role of cybernetic policeman Jax Briggs. Since he did play a crime fighter on Supergirl, this is not a huge jump for him. Hopefully, we will get a trailer for the film soon so that we can see if it will be campy like the original or take a more serious tone like I believe it will. Possibly going for a more horror-style action film, which is definitely what I'm hoping for. But given that it will be released on HBO Max as well as it being released around April 20th, I'm sure that I will find some way to enjoy it. Black Widow. What was supposed to begin Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but will now be outpaced by WandaVision and possibly the Loki series on Marvel+, Black Widow is another film that's been ready to strike for a long time. In fact, the first trailer for Black Widow was released in late 2019, so it's now been over a year since we were teased to a movie that some would argue is already overdue, mainly because of the fact that the lead of the film is deceased in the present timeline of the Marvel Universe. The film itself is reported to take place mostly between the events of Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, as it follows Scarlett Johansson's Natasha Romanoff as she deals with issues from her past as a member of the Red Room, an organization of trained brainwashed assassins. Besides Natasha, a new Black Widow is set to pounce or jump or do whatever spiders do besides just being gross. Whatever that is, Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh, is set to do that. It is not certain if this is Johansson's last appearance as the character, as she could pop up again in a memory sequence in a movie or series like the new Hawkeye series set to air next year, but Belova is probably here to stay for at least a couple years. It is possible she will show up as the Widow and not only only the same Hawkeye series, but a movie or series about the group of anti-heroes known as the Thunderbolts. Also making an appearance is Rachel Weisz as a former widow who acts as a mother figure, as well as a father figure played by Stranger Things and Hellboy star David Harbour, who plays a character known as the Red Guardian, who is like the Russian version of Captain America. Since it has been so long since the film was supposed to be released, the plot and most of the movie has already been leaked online, so it's hard to get excited for this one. But since it is one of the first big movies being released to theaters in 2021, I will no doubt see it on the first weekend it's out. The Matrix Part 4. The first film on this list not based around a comic book or video game premise, The Matrix 4 promises to push the evolution of the science fiction action genre once again to new heights. There is no doubt that the first Matrix film is among the most revolutionary of its time, and while there are mixed emotions about the two sequels, I thought each brought a new perspective to the overarching storyline. I honestly think they have aged well, since I understand more about them now after all the books and other media that have been released since that better explain certain aspects of the meaning behind the Matrix, what happened to Neo, and the Architect. This film will no doubt touch on these same plot lines and will introduce a new anomaly to the fourth iteration of the Matrix that could be the character played by Jessica Henwick, who many know from her role on the Netflix Marvel series Iron Fist. Also new to the franchise are the Neil Patrick Harris, as well as Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who you may recognize from another HBO release, The Watchmen, as well as Aquaman. Returning to the cast will of course be Keanu Reeves as Neo, who is said to be taking on an advisor/mentor role similar to that of Morpheus, as well as Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity and Jada Pinkett Smith as Niobe. Two actors that will not be returning are the aforementioned Morpheus, who was played by Lawrence Fishburne, as well as the menacing Agent Smith, played by Hugo Weaving. As I mentioned, I expect this film to be just as innovative as the first, and because of that, even though it will be released on HBO Max in December, as of right now I have every intention of seeing it on the big screen opening weekend. Because of that, I can fully understand why it's so highly anticipated by the fans on IMDB, as it is very high on my list of movies for 2021 as well. The Suicide Squad. The film that I think will be more fun than any other on this list, and perhaps the most fun film I have seen since the last time James Gunn or Taika Waititi directed a superhero film, The Suicide Squad is a sequel of sorts to the original film from 2016. This film promises to be a totally different tone though, as James Gunn has written and directed this movie about an even larger cadre of delinquent C and D-list villains as they work to trim years off their sentences in Belle Reve prison. The only returning characters from the first film are that of the most popular from said film, Margaret Robbie's Harley Quinn, as well as Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag, Jay Courtney as Digger Harkness, and Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. But even their characters seem to be a bit different given their new attire. It would take me the entire length of this video just to go into each character in this movie, which is a good sign that most will not be around for longer than one or two scenes. But I'm also interested in seeing Sylvester Stallone's mystery character, as well as Michael Rooker in the film, who is once again teaming up with James Gunn after his role as Yondu in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Another character that stands out in the cast is the Peacemaker, who is kind of like if you spilled some Punisher on your Captain America, and will be played by John Cena, and who has already been given a series on HBO Max set to release next year. I didn't hate the first movie, but I do think there are definite highs and lows, and given the circumstances surrounding its release, you can kind of see that in the finished product. James Gunn seems to really understand how to make seemingly outlandish and silly stories, like a planet being a person, and give them a heart and soul, and I expect the same from this release that will probably rejuvenate this team as a franchise. Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is a film that while I myself am excited to see it, I'm surprised to see it so high on this list for 2021, especially given that Spider-Man 3, a completely new movie, is also being released later in the year and still falls out of the top 10. But perhaps the data has not caught up since Zack Snyder's Justice League has been part of a fan petition for years now. Even before the Justice League movie was originally released in 2017, there had been rumors that the studio had taken the story away from the film's director and the man responsible up until that point for the vision of the DC movie universe, Zack Snyder, and replaced his vision with that of Joss Whedon, who many credit with the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. During the filming, Zack Snyder was forced to leave the project due to a personal family tragedy, and Warner Brothers brought in Whedon to not only finish the film, but change it to a lighter tone closer to that of the Marvel movies. What was released in 2017 was really a Frankenstein monster of a movie based around the visions of two directors and a studio, and the end product suffered greatly because of it. But after the release, word reached the public that a cut of the movie that contained Zack Snyder's original vision existed, and quickly the community was mobilized to the point where the outcry forced the studio to give Snyder $70 million to complete the effects and the editing from his original version and release it to the public as a new movie. The film is now 4 hours long and will be released in theaters as well as on HBO Max, but will be released there in weekly 1-hour installments until the movie is released in full. Like trying to explain all the characters in the other DC movie on this list, it would take a good 10 minutes at least to go into everything that is different about this movie, and perhaps I will do a video about that this year, but the main differences are supposedly with each member of the Justice League's character development throughout the movie, and we will see characters that were not in the original film, like Iris West and Darkside. Before I reveal the number one movie on the list compiled by IMDB.com, this is my list of the movies I am most excited for, and yes, it is a lot different. So if you like this video and want me to do a video based around this list, don't forget to hit that like button first and then let me know in the comments. The one movie that I wanted to tip you off to, since you probably have not heard of it, is The Tomorrow War. This sounds like a really cool sci-fi action movie, as it stars Chris Pratt from the Guardians of the Galaxy as a gunnery sergeant who is brought into the future to fight a war that humanity is losing against an alien race. Since Earth is losing so badly, there are hardly any soldiers left, so scientists create a way to bring soldiers from the past and draft them into this war. It kind of reminds me of the movie Predators, which was released in 2010 and revolved around a bunch of different types of soldiers from around the world being brought to an alien planet to fight the Predator. I really love this idea, and while there are not a lot of other big names in the cast that stand out, J.K. Simmons as another soldier named Slade Highsmith sounds like he could be a lot of fun. This movie is set to be released in theaters on July 23rd, 2021, and I suggest you look out for it, as to me it sounds like a spiritual successor to the type of 90s action sci-fi films of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jean-Claude Van Damme that I grew up loving. Dune. The number one movie on this list may also be the most ambitious, as writer, producer, and director Denis Villeneuve, who also directed Blade Runner 2049, hopes to bring a new and grand version of an old and popular tale to the masses. The movie is said to be solely based on the 1965 book of the same name by author Frank Herbert, and take little inspiration from the popular movie adaptation from 1984 by David Lynch. This is one of the things that gets me most excited about this film, since I was never a fan of the movie, having attempted to watch it with an open mind on many occasions. An epic trailer was released in the fall of 2020 that showed a dark and beautiful world that was populated by fascinating characters interwoven into a complex tale about love, politics, and power. Timothée Chalamet will play the lead role of Paul Atreides, a role made popular by Colin MacLachlan in the original film, and will be joined by an impressive cast that includes Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Zendaya, Jason Momoa, Javier Bardem, and Stellan Skarsgård. This will be the first of two parts, as the director reportedly refused to work on the film unless he was given a two-movie deal, and it is set to be released in the theaters as well as on HBO Max this year, and there's a spin-off series in the works as well. But with just the scenes that were shown in the trailer, I know that I'll want to see this on opening weekend at the movies. Well, that is the complete list, but let me know in the comments what movies you are most excited to see, and I would love to see your top 10 list. If you would like to support the channel, you can smash that like button and the subscribe bell for weekly sci-fi theory and review videos. I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?